Sometimes everything goes according to plan. Sometimes they go horribly. Join us while we tell tales of games gone wrong. This is Curmudgeons and Dragons RPG Horror Stories.
Hello, adventurers. Guys, it's Friday. Let's tell some RPG horror stories. I got Jim Crocker here.
Hello.
Josie Diaz just won't go away.
No, I won't. You cannot get rid of me. You will never be rid of me.
I'm such an amateur because I was about to go Friday. It's Wednesday. It releases on Friday.
No, Jim, it's Friday.
There we go.
It's the magic of podcasting.
It's
the magic of podcasting.
It's
yes.
Also, we don't know that they're not listening to the show on like a Thursday. They
You're
might
right.
wait a
That's
while.
true.
They might be binging back episodes.
But I managed to do the math, so that was good.
Hello in the future.
Happy Friday, everybody! Thank God it's Friday.
Right? Yeah. Thanks. Totally Friday.
Thank the gods because it's a D&D podcast.
Yes.
Oh my God! I thought today was Thursday this whole time.
No, Josie, it's Friday. Jim, will you mercifully get me the hell out of this intro and tell me a story?
I will. Yes, I have a horror story here that is kind of an interesting story. So the header may give you pause, but it leads to something that I think is an interesting question that there's a lot of debate on. And the thing I find more interesting about this horror story is kind of the comments and discussions going on underneath the story itself. The story itself is pretty straightforward, and I think pretty clear what's going on, but there was a lot of debate about it. So this is...
Now I'm curious.
Yeah, this is a Reddit user, sleep _skull. Why do people think pedophilia jokes are funny? It has the NSFW
I did see the story. I didn't read it though.
So
you just hear it and you're like, oh no.
Not exactly a horror story, but I was very, very embarrassed. One shot. I'm playing a 41-year-old male priest, lawful good. Everything goes, more or less. My PC and the PCs of the other players in the orphanage kill the monster, and the DM asks what the PCs are doing. My priest decides to stay at the orphanage and help the abbess calm the children. The rest of the characters go to the tavern to spend the night. DM: I wouldn't leave a priest alone with children. Me: why? DM: well, we know those stories about Catholic priests and children, don't we?
Good
the
thing
rest
they're
of the
not
players
Catholic,
start.
then.
The rest of the players start laughing. I just cringe in shame, basically hiding my face in my hands. I was just really embarrassed back then, but now I think about why the hell he decided that a joke about my character being a pedophile was a great idea. P.S. For reference, I am a girl 20 years old and I am the oldest player. The other three are 16 to 17 years old minors. That's the body of the horror story. I completely understand why she was upset.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of people saying, give us more context, me included. There's a lot of people responding saying, whatever, it's a joke about a Catholic priest. Who cares? It's something that's in the news. Why are you getting upset? You have no right to be, it's just
that's my first thought on this.
Yeah, I was like, I would make that joke.
And in this world, your character, I'm assuming your character is not Catholic because it's the D&D world. So far I get it.
Yeah.
Go on.
So that's, and that is a joke that might happen in a game that I played with my friends, right? Where we had established that was the kind of thing we joked about. When you read further, the context is that this is a table where this young woman went looking for a game locally, found a 35-year-old guy who met them all in a cafe and is running this game for them in a cafe. So that is this is not a thing where it was like regular friends that she regularly played with or anything like that. This is strangers. And specifically, this is a dude twice her age who, very early in their first game, made a joke about pedophilia to a young woman nearly half his age and some teenagers at the table, for the first time playing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's less comfortable.
It sure is. And so she was absolutely right. I think to be upset by that, to be embarrassed, to say, why are you doing this to me? She just wants to play the game and have fun. And to have that introduced by this dude, singling her out for that, bringing those teenagers in on the joke, on laughing at her, and, making it making her character the butt of a sexualized joke has the feeling to me, like the immediate red flag for me is that is boundary testing behavior.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I see when I see that you've got this older dude and being like, oh, well, let me inject this bit of rape humor into the game and see if this young woman pushes back on it. Because if she doesn't, then I can go further.
Yeah, that is definitely a moment of, let's see if I can get away with this. That typically will only escalate.
So this is one of those things where it's in a particular context, it reads like a pretty bad horror story to me. Because
I think it's important that you have that context. Because on the surface, if this was, you're right, if this was another situation, if this was us at a table and Jason made that joke at me, I would be like, I'm fine. That's fine. I think that's funny. But to do that to someone on one of your first interactions when you are significantly older than most of the players, all of the players, just cringy. Don't do that. Don't do it.
Absolutely. and there's people going, well, you don't know that that's what they're doing. You can't say with 100% certainty. I cannot, but I can say that it is in that young woman's best interest to treat it that way. You don't want to make the mistake of making the mistake in favor of assuming that that's headed somewhere creepy and cutting it off is a better mistake to make than assuming everything is fine and ending up in a place you don't want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that's an extreme position for that to possibly be, but you're right, being safe about it, and at least maybe after the game, at least if you want to just if she wants to play cautiously, but hey, that wasn't cool, we can't do that. This is where the boundaries are.
You could,
or just stop playing.
I wonder what happened after this first encounter that led her to decide to put it as a horror story up. Because if it was just that, I think she would have been like, haha, that's weird, whatever. But it sounds like she saw it as there were other red flags and it was like, hey, is this a problem? This is a problem.
And specifically what she says here is, I was just really embarrassed back then, but now I think about why the hell he decided that joke about my character being a pedophile was a great idea.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is that there's people on there going, well, it was just this sort of generalized joke. It wasn't directed at her. But in fact, it actually was. It was saying, tell me why it was basically saying,
justify to me why I should let you. Yeah. I should let your priest character be around these children.
Isn't a pedophile. Yeah. And that's coming in pretty hot.
Yeah. It's one thing to just make that as an offhanded joke. If that did not affect the game in any way, I don't want to say you get a pass, but it's much less of a problem to me than the fact that he was like, okay, well, right now, tell me why you're not about to have sex with these children.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't care for that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just, but this is just another one of those horror stories where, and so this is a thing that we've talked about a little bit, but for me, the vast majority of the D&D that I have run in my life, because I owned a game store, was for strangers and often for kids. Mm-hmm. And so what constitutes a horror story at a table full of 16-year-olds you've never met before is incredibly different than a horror story at the table full of guys your own age who you've been drinking beer with for a decade and this is your fourth campaign. And the context is just so important. And it's not necessarily that D&D is different games in those situations, although, you could make the case that it is, but that you always got to be aware of that. And your obligation of care as a DM is so different in those situations. And you can't forget that in these discussions.
Especially because this wasn't a cafe. This wasn't a public place. That's incredibly uncomfortable. Like other people hear this DM saying, oh, well, you know what they say, like, are justify to me why you're not going to be committing a felony in hopefully also this universe. And people hear you saying them. It's just that leaves a bad taste in my mouth a lot.
As it should. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's why it was interesting to me to read the responses, which were split between, oh my God, this is no big deal. Why are you upset about this? And I absolutely see why this is upsetting. And somebody did this to me one time. And if somebody did this to me, I'd be very upset. You know, people that were like, and not to put too fine a point on it, young women were like, oh yeah, I get why that's upsetting. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of dudes who are like, whatever, just making a joke. Who cares? You know, and stuff. And so, being mindful of your space and your table is incredibly important.
I was going to say, I have a not D&D horror story that would relate to that too. Like, so there are just situations where like, hey, don't make inappropriate jokes in front of, number one, children, number two, strangers, and number three, strangers that don't know what you're doing.
Where I was going to go with this also is like strictly from a gaming perspective. Let's take all this social weirdness out of the equation for a second. Let's talk strictly gaming.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Catholics in your campaign. Like why are you breaking immersion? Why are you breaking immersion to do this? Like that's just,
why have you decided that whatever religious organization this character belongs to is full of pedophiles? Why have you built that into your campaign?
Josie, that's called taking out of game knowledge and applying it to your game. And, at the worst, this guy's a metagamer.
Yeah.
This is egregious metagaming.
Oh God.
Fantastic. Oh.
And that's the weirdest take I'm going to have on this.
Now that's the hottest take you're going to have on this. That's great. Why are you metagaming? Yeah, to have her get up in his face, that would have been awesome. Just stick a finger in his face and be like, "No metagaming."
Yeah. Forget awesome. The pedophile jokes. Like, but metagaming, absolutely not at my table. All right.
Yeah,
misusing
and it's and just he's like, she's posited her character's lawful good. She wasn't even alone with the kids. There was an abbess with them there. So it's when the situation is ridiculous, but yeah.
I don't think the implication was ever, and I'm not going to call this guy 100% innocent. I think he's an idiot for not reading the room, but I don't think it got more evil than that, just based on the information that I have. I think this was a situation of a situation with a priest in a room full of kids. The joke was there. There's a priest in Boston that kind of caused that joke for us. And did it belong to D&D campaign? Fuck no.
That is the most generous. That is the most generous interpretation of.
I think so.
Of what could have been going on there. That's like the best reading of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did that joke? This is a completely above the table joke. I don't think this had anything to do with her character. Did that joke belong at a D&D table? No. Did it belong at a table full of children for no matter what activity they were doing? No. Okay. So like, read a room. Don't be an idiot. Mm-hmm. I'm a guy in my 30s. I got a big beard. Okay. I look weird hanging out with kids. It's a weird thing. And it's just something that adult men have to deal with. And I'm very much aware of how many eyes are on me if I'm playing a game at a table full of teenagers. And you can't be stupid about that.
At the store, my rule was anybody 13 or under, the first game they played at my table, a parent had to be there for the whole game.
Yep. I think you mentioned that before, and that's great.
Then, and at the end of the game, I would like specifically say to the parent, that's how the games usually go. If you're comfortable with them playing with me, you don't have to stay for further games, but I did want to make sure that you saw a game.
Yep. I'm not
and
a
that
babysitter,
was always,
but,
yeah.
Well,
but they
I think that's
paid
a good
for
rule.
Paid for a couple of hours to be there and stuff like that. But it also made sure that like the kid got like it was a transitional space. You know, they didn't just get dumped into the game, but they got, and everybody else was on good behavior because somebody's mom was there watching the game too. So that was a good thing.
True.
Yeah.
A night guaranteed, shenanigan free.
Mm-hmm.
So even just from the responses on that story, this seems pretty polarizing. So I would love.
Yeah, I was fascinated by how polarizing it was.
Yeah,
that was one of those things where I read it, And based on my experience and everything that I had like front of mind with my goal, my principal goal as a store owner being everybody needs to be comfortable and feel safe.
Yeah.
Being the principal goal for me. I read that and went, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
She's and like was
1,000%
honestly kind of baffled by some of the polarized responses to it. So it was a very interesting read for me.
I 100% understand the discomfort, and I 100% understand how a joke like that can not have any malice behind it, but have unfortunate consequences. And I think this is a story of possibly no actual real bad guys, but just like someone who was responsible for a bad situation.
And we'll agree to disagree on that.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's a tough one.
Hope for the best, expect the worst.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Trust but verify. Yeah.
I would love to hear other opinions on this. So if you're listening to this if you use YouTube to listen to the podcast, you can leave a comment right there. Otherwise, you can find us at curmudgeonsanddragons.com. It's a great way to get in touch with us. I'd love some feedback on this. We'll talk about another episode. But that's all we're going to have for today. Jim, thank you so much for reading.
Yeah, you bet.
Joseph, thanks for hanging out.
Always.
Greg will be back sometime soon. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Please share this with your favorite adventurers and leave a review. If you have a tale we should tell, please send it to us at curmudgeonsanddragons.com/contact for consideration. You are now out of initiative.
This has been a JTP Audio podcast. Thanks for listening.